All for less than $20 at Sunday's Rosebud Radio Fest. Let's take a look. Lots of wire here, a freebie near the end of the Hamfest. Enough here to make some dipoles for the higher HF bands. Here's a crystal, 3500 kilohertz. If it works, a band edge marker for the 80 meter band. Or, with any luck, might be able to open it up, grind it a bit, and get it a bit higher in frequency. That could be useful for an 80 meter CW transmitter. Here is a noise bridge. Antenna socket, nice box. Looks like it runs off a 9-volt battery. A potential future video on another day. Quick look at the noise bridge. There's two main controls. This is in ohms. This is capacitive and inductance reactance. An antenna socket and a socket for the receiver. Having a look inside, there's very little. One thing that is unusual is this differential variable capacitor. When one half of it is at maximum capacitance, with it being fully meshed, the other half is at minimum capacitance, unmeshed. And when you turn it the other way around, it's the opposite. And then there's a little circuit here, 3 transistors. This is basically an RF white noise generator, so it generates signals, basically broadband RF hash. But when you have an antenna attached to this and you twiddle the controls, you adjust it for maximum noise as received in a receiver on a given frequency. And when you reach that point of minimum noise, or a null, by twiddling these controls, then you know that you've reached the point where you can just read the antenna's impedance off the dials here. And this is good for measuring complex impedance. So not only is there a resistive component in ohms, you've also got a reactance component, XL and XC. So you can see whether it's purely resistive or whether there's a large reactance component and you'll need an antenna coupler. It's a complex number. I have done a previous video on that when I was demonstrating a little reactance meter. But anyway, this is a noise bridge. This is what we had before antenna analyzers and nano VNAs came onto the scene. So very simple, but an easy to build homebrew piece of test equipment that people used to make in quite big numbers before these more modern instruments came onto the scene. These extra low voltage plugs are very handy for connecting into 12 volt, 20 or 30 amp power supplies, like you'd connect a 100 watt transceiver to. At a price of $2, these are a fraction of the price that you'd normally buy them for new. This unit here, which was a freebie at the end of the Hamfest, is a VHF vswr meter. You have a calibrator, VSWR, you set it to calibrator, you apply carrier, like from an FM transmitter, set this so that it's reading full scale, and the setting of this potentiometer will depend on the transmitter's power. Then you flick it to VSWR, and with any luck, if your antenna is well matched, the meter needle will only deflect a little bit. You can just see on the screen there's 1.1, 1.5, 2, so someone has calibrated that. Having a look inside, it's a bit hard to open unless you pull all the guts out, but at the bottom you can see that there's a strip line on a piece of printed circuit board. That might be a little bit clearer for you. There's not very many parts on this. Basically, there's a 47 ohm resistor. Deeper in, which you might not be able to see, there's a diode. And this strip line is set up so that it is right abutting the antenna and transceiver sockets. And then here there's a bit of brass or copper that shields the RF bit, which is all floating around here, from the meter circuitry. And there's the panel meter there. A box with a few bits and pieces. Open it up and it's a QRP transceiver kit. It looks like one of those frog sounds that you see on eBay. It's incomplete. Looks like the kit has been built, at least on the basic board, but still lots of loose wires to other accessories. These include the plugs and sockets on the panel and an external audio amplifier module. I applied antenna and power and straight away heard VK3YE calling CQ. I came back to him, but my signal was either not strong enough or a bit on the wrong frequency, so I wasn't able to be heard. This cabinet with drawers set me back $10. Was it worth it? Let's have a look to see what came with it. Quite a lot. There's some binding posts, lots of little trimmer potentiometers, a whole load of speakers, quite small, lots of knobs, even more banana connectors, and it goes on and on. Alligator clips, binding posts. These individually might be $2 each, but there's dozens, if not hundreds, in here. And look at this one. This is absolutely huge. And what about this? Let's find a battery, apply some power and see what it sounds like. There's 3 connections on this. Because of that, you can select it to make 2 different sounds, either continuous or pulsing. So that's it, a good find at the Rosebud Radio Fest, held each November by the Southern Peninsula Amateur Radio Club. If there's a Hamfest near you, why not go along, because you might be able to get bargains like these or even better.